In the nations we call home, an illness has taken hold. A spiritual poison infecting us all.
White people, am I right?
Damn white people are pissy about racism.
A population taught to hate itself and assist in its own demise.
When we say we want to kill whitey, we don't really mean we want to kill whitey. We do.
Some white people may have to die. I'm confused on why that's so controversial.
A people lost in an electronic dream, bereft of meaning and enslaved by guilt.
The only way that you should ever actually be in front of a black king is on all fours, and that all black men should know that they are kings.
Yes, goddess.
You have to give all these brothers beats a kiss if you're really sorry. Go back down, come on. Do as you told, man. Go on, bow back down, man. This is a good white man, man. This is right. Understand.
What happens when we no longer care? When we allow ourselves to be dominated by our victimizers? Our most innocent pay the price. And what happens when they finally stand up? The most important story for the 21st century, in a time when we shall re-enter history, when we shall create a new world in our image, and when we shall finally reawaken and become heroes. Crucible, Child Patriot, American Victory by Jason Kerner.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. They don't wanna see me care. Anytime I make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I won't get back up, cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. Then it's your chance to be ruthless. Then it's your chance to be ruthless. I'll make it look like I'm losing. Won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
And we are rolling in, going free, ladies and gentlemen, on this Friday evening. How are you all doing on that Friday evening? It's been long 2 days for me. It's been a long 2 days. We had a marvelous roll-in yesterday with lovely Porridge and Natarific talking about the What is Anti-White Competition, which ended gloriously. And we had magnificent people step forward, financially gifting, and people stepping up saying they're going to be posting these videos that the contributors made. And very proud of everything that took place there. Very excited to see everybody tonight here going free rather than out doing something useless and vitiating in your life, because that's all that's going to happen when you go out to these bars and clubs and things. You just be vitiated one way or another. So Lapis is here. Hello to you. So is He. Franklin, great to see you. There's Lacey. Hello and welcome. And there's Rory Herbert. And Foreign Orange. What is that? And there is Miss Carlisle Cockatoo. How are you, young lady? And Azimuth Clark. And there's Pants. Great to see you, good brother. Waylon is here. Welcome, my friend. Is the audio okay? Can you hear me all right? We have this. Oh, there's the great Fornull is with us. Hello, good brother. And Justin Wright, hello to you. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. It's a cozy roll in tonight because, in part, gigantic content creators on YouTube are not mentioning us, but so just kind of keeping us in obscurity. So instead of me going live and having, I don't know, 3, 6, 13,000 showing up, then we're still like this. So, but we are going to talk about something very important, because there was this video that was made, and you all have probably seen it. And if you haven't seen it, the Citizens for Sanity ad that was tweeted by Jack Posobiec, you can find it on my Twitter. You can find it obviously on his. The video has over 2 million views. And who knows, Twitter might be even manipulating that so that it looks like there are fewer views than there actually are on it. And it's the ad is widely, I guess, touted as wonderful and effective, and by people in the white sympathetic sphere that simply don't know any better. When I saw this ad, I immediately saw the poison in it and where it was coming from, deep within the anti-white narrative. And its appeal was primarily to people who are white negative. We consider ourselves white positive in service to white well-being. White negatives don't focus on the white race. They focus on other races of people, and they want to say a lot of negative things about other races of people. And when those negative things condemn the entire race, that's reprehensible. That's exactly what we don't want done to us. So we'll talk about it. There's the great No White Gil Clips is with us, true champion. Joe is here. Foster Kennel, hello. He says, hello, Jason and crew. Please tag me with No White Guilt this evening if you have questions about this. It's really, the ad is so insanely wrong that it's almost crippling in trying to really dig into all the pieces. And I decided that it would not benefit us. It would not behoove me to try to go into all the ways that this ad is wrong and how it harms and why it harms and where it's probably coming from and how it came together. Instead, I wanted to hit the couple of the biggest points. So you can tag me as No White Guilt. Maybe you looked at this ad and you thought, yeah, I think it's great. Well, then respectfully disagree with me with your points, and I will speak to them. You may also financially gift at Entropy, which is up and running, at Odyssey, which is up and running, and at Cash App. I'll be monitoring all three. Any financial gifts, questions, or comments will be read no matter what. You can post questions or comments in the Tall Kevin widget over on Entropy, which is the chat widget over on the left-hand side of your screen. And they don't disappear there. They won't scroll off unless they won't scroll off at all. They won't disappear unless you or I delete them. So they'll remain there. How's everybody doing otherwise? I mean, we're having a magnificent but hot summer in the once great state of Virginia outside of Mordor on the Potomac. And this video presented another opportunity to be able to speak to so many of the errors and fallacies in interpretation of our situation. So this is in many ways going to be a very cerebral and hopefully as brief as I can make it discussion about the ideas in this ad and how they're harmful. And when I ask people on my Twitter if they saw the poison, if they thought it was good or bad, should I review it? Some folks responded right there and they're like, "Hey, I think it's great." I don't know how it could be bad. How could it be viewed as bad? Well, you are not bad for coming to that conclusion. If that was you or one of those people, or you came to the same conclusion, but you have to be redeemed. You have identified a sickness in you for which you can never recover inside that sickness, inside that anti-white narrative. No matter how obvious it seems to you, you should be able to understand this. That approach, being white negative, has failed for your life, and that should be all the evidence that you need that it never will work. If it's been failing all this time, it's not going to start working. So we'll address that, and I think whatever you all bring up, I imagine there might be a few thoughts. But again, please tag me on any of these platforms. Let me say hello over here. Hello to Odyssey, folks who are over there, and a big hello to everybody on DLive. And anybody who might watch. Almost nobody is ever watching over on Rumble. These alt tech platforms are garbage. They are pure garbage. They censor on those platforms. So they'll talk about freedom of speech, and yet they censor. Andrew is here. Hello to you. Hess says that I should meet with McDuff. He's in Virginia. I don't know who that person is, but is he in the white positive sphere or further out in the white sympathetic sphere? Great for Null is here, says Promethean Hails, brother. Big Promethean Hails to you. And there's Caleb. Great to see you, brother. All right, why don't we go? Kingdom of Inland is here. Wonderful. Why don't we go ahead and pull it up on the screen? Now, I was just saying, this is not all that you're going to be able to see. And please let me know if the audio continues at the same beautiful state. Because sometimes when I do the screen share, that's when we get these problems. So I appreciate it. So here we have the very beginning of the ad. Now, before I play the ad, what I'm going to do is I'll show you right now what's going to happen while the ad is playing. That's going to happen. Now, the reason that's going to happen is because I'm not going to lose my channel for the garbage that is shown. And it's garbage. It's violent crime. That's garbage. And you know very well that the anti-whites at YouTube will take any opportunity they can to delete my channel for even the slightest infraction. So that's going to happen during the video for significant segments of the video. But I think we'll go through, you'll be able to hear the audio, or at least let me know that you can hear the audio. We'll let it play for the whole thing. It's only 1 minute and 46 seconds. And then we're going to go back and I'm going to ask some questions. I want to get your thoughts. And maybe I'll pose some questions right now. Make this a bit more interactive. If you have some friends out there who can respectfully disagree, maybe drag them in. But some questions are, how many of you, or did any of you, I guess, look at this ad and think that it was a good ad, and why? Now this, right before the stream, I was thinking maybe I should actually, in a subsequent stream, follow up on who is this group, Citizens for Sanity. I looked at their website, and it is deep within the folks making it are deep within the anti-white narrative. Now, I'm not saying, I haven't looked any deeper than that. I'm not saying that these are anti-whites, but they are ultimately anti-white in their outcomes because of the strategies they employ, because those strategies and objectives are based on fallacies inside the anti-white narrative. So these are not my opinions. And that's another thing that I've got to make clear. These are objective facts. We produce things here, and that can upset people, and that's okay. There are a lot of children, I'm afraid, in adult bodies. But what we produce succeeds. That means that we understand what's happening. Our conclusions, when you have repeated conclusions that succeed and not a one-off or two-off, when you have repeated conclusions that you base strategy on and interpretation and objectives, that means you are right. So this is not my opinion. It is fact. So before we get into this sort of back and forth of, well, that's just what you think. Well, that's just what you think. Why might some people, if it wasn't you, why might some people out there think that it is a good ad? Now, be careful when you write, in the live chat. Don't be gross. Don't be white negative. You can use your intelligence to creatively and respectfully word things. So be aware. And if you write something that one of the troll slayers thinks is close enough to the line, they're going to say, please don't do that close to the line, or say something like that again, and they'll delete your comment. And then please respect that. They're not perfect. They're imperfect like me. But we're just trying to do a job here for white well-being to the best of our ability. So why do you think some people might think this was a good ad? If it wasn't you, or if you didn't think it was a good ad, why? Or if you did, why? And if you weren't really either of those, why do you think some might think it's a good ad? And why, if it was you, why did you think, or if you thought that this was an effective ad, and to what end? What's the objective? And if not you, then why do you think others might have found this ad effective, and to what end? So let's have a sort of a look, but definitely a listen. I'm going to try to be quick on this button here, so we don't. So we're starting off with this lovely black woman in her community. She's pushing her baby in a stroller down the street. And here we go.
For nearly 30 years, crime was falling in the United States. No more. The national murder rate is at its highest in 25 years. Oh my God! The result of far-left policies that leave innocent Americans at the mercy of violent criminals. You've seen the images. Subway riders pushed onto tracks by the violently deranged. Stores being looted in broad daylight. Elderly women viciously beaten on the street and outside their homes. Gang shootings turning cities into war zones.
Just pausing it right there so that we can't get had for not speaking over the video, but we'll return right away.
Hardened criminals rampaging without fear. No fear of arrest. No fear of prosecution. No fear of jail. No fear of any consequence at all. Instead, you are made to live in fear. Woke progressive prosecutors are releasing dangerous predators before trial.
It dropped off the screen. One second. We'll pick it right up there. Oh, beautiful spot. And was the sound okay? We have to do that though. Oh, it's going to play over it anyhow. Pop back up.
Made to live in fear.
Damn it. Why does it keep doing that? This is the best part of the dangerous predators. I want y'all to see that. Let me start up right there. Okay, that's good. The things we have to do, because the ear is against the door. The ear is most definitely against the door. These are the woke prosecutors. Here we go.
Prosecutors are releasing dangerous predators before trial. Woke far-left politicians have allowed our streets and parks to be overrun with crime and drugs. Police have been made into the enemy and criminals into a protected class. Violent crime is up 21% in Washington, D.C., 35% in Chicago, 41% in New York City, and murders are up 207% in Portland. Cities in chaos, billions in property damages, lives and families destroyed. Stop the woke war on police. Stop the far-left assault on public safety. Stop the radical left-wing love affair with criminals. Stop the insanity. Citizens for Sanity paid for this ad.
All right. So, fortunately, we made it through it. that time. The Citizens for Sanity paid for this ad. Do you all know anything about Citizens for Sanity? What you missed there, if you haven't seen this ad, is just numerous clips of criminals committing, in some cases, really horrific, grisly attacks with automobiles, with firearms, with their fists, just really despicable, criminal, malevolent, evil behavior. Speedrunner says cartoonish. You know what? That's a great way to actually speak to it. It is so sort of amateurish, cartoonish, puerile. It really is. That's a great way to put it. Mick Polar screensaver over top of it to protect this channel from receiving, probably just thrown off of YouTube for depicting the violence that's in the video. I mean, there's really monstrous violence. This is not what you don't want to see it. I mean, there's nothing good will come from seeing it. And I guess I can begin right there while I interact with you all. When I, as a white person, look at something like this, when many white people who are white sympathetic, especially openly, expressly white sympathetic, and they see that in this video, they're the people committing the really monstrous crimes in the video. I don't know that there are any white people. There might be. I haven't like slowed it down and watched every scene and tried to see if I could pick out the light skin and the lighter skin and the head and face structure of a white person. It appears to be almost entirely dark-skinned criminals and people watching that in the white sympathetic sphere that really liked the ad. They were convinced that it was all black criminals. Now, I know it wasn't all black criminals. I know that for sure because you could see some there that looked like maybe they were potentially white, certainly Hispanic as well. Maybe there was one that I think from memory I saw, and I thought it was the criminals in that case were Asian, I think. But it does appear to be almost entirely very dark-skinned criminals in the most violent, in the midst of the most violent acts. Now, when you watch something like this, now what I recommend doing when it comes to white positivity, focusing on us, when you see something, a white person being victimized, and by the way, all of the victims are not white. There appear to be, or there are some white victims, but there are also Asian and other light-skinned victims. So some Asians, light-skinned. Certainly there's an Asian woman or two Asian women, maybe, if it's not the same one, that are victimized. But when you are white positive and you see something really hellish, when I was going all the way back when I was a child, when I would see something on the news of a white person being brutalized on a video, or even hear the news about a white person being brutalized by someone of either another race or they were white and anti-white. So in the case where it's white and anti-white, they were on the news would expressly say so. Whether it was whether the non-whites in these instances that I saw on news, whether they were also obviously anti-white, wasn't always centered in the story. Wasn't always articulated. My first thought was always to the injured white person. It was always that way. From my earliest memories as a child, I always thought, oh my God, why didn't somebody intervene? Why didn't somebody stop this white person being brutalized? Why didn't somebody stop this white woman being raped? Why didn't somebody stop these white children being sexually assaulted by an adult or adults. Why didn't somebody intervene? That was always my thought. But there is and from that thought to what you see broadly in the white sympathetic sphere, let's just be honest, there's an enormous gulf. Absolutely enormous. And one of the things that we do here, one of the things that I'm proudest of, is that we redeem our brothers and sisters to put their focus and love on us. Because by putting your focus and love on us, indeed, only by putting your focus and love on us, can you bring an end to our victimization. And you will see as we explore this, that there is no way to put an end to our victimization any other way. Certainly not the way that many people in the white sympathetic sphere view a crime against a white person. So let me see what you all are saying. Based in Red Pill, I want you all to stay engaged here so it can be a bit more of a conversation, right? Based in Red Pill is here. Wonderful to see you, good brother. So's Cool Papa. Great to see you. Based in Red Pill says, thoughts on non-whites celebrating the death of the Queen because of, and then you add colonization. Try to get into the habit. You're awesome. So just giving you a tip. Try to get in the habit of when you give their meme pathogen, which is their excuse, their anti-white excuse, always put it in quotes. Try to get into the habit of putting it because you want to invalidate it. It's not a legitimate reason. And we don't repeat the pretexts, the meme pathogens that they give for their behavior in a mocking tongue, because consciously we know, that it's mocking. We're jeering at them. We're ridiculing them for it. But subconsciously, that's not how it's landing on you or any of your audience. It lands as a legitimate argument. And so even though your audience might think, you're not the white people you want to convince, even though they might think that, well, it's despicable to celebrate the death of anybody, but celebrating the death of the Queen, despicable, but they kind of get a pass because we colonize them. So you don't want to add fuel to that fire. That's all I'm saying. So you probably do normally put quotes around that sort of thing, and you're just hammering it out really quick on the live chat. So folks, when that happens, maybe you just knock something out really quick. You want to get it to me so I see it, and then I give thoughts to it. Your norm, though, is what would take more time and also more characters and space. Then just take it as all right, well, this is a learning opportunity for everyone who doesn't do what I do when I have time to actually write it out and I have enough characters to write it out. You follow me? So, is that Marluxia? Hello to you. Paul Revere is here. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, tell folks that we're here. Denny is here with us. Pearl Lady is here. Great to see you, dear lady. Montana Kid. That we're here and we're going to be talking about. And this is actually a really fundamental, foundational subject matter that we're covering tonight. So it is the reason why, in a just colossal Brobdingnagian way, it is a reason why the white sympathetic sphere fails, has failed, and will continue to fail in its struggle against anti-whiteism. It's a very big subject, and we're going to cover one of the highest peaks in that subject because there simply is not enough time. And also there's the problem of when I have found when I lay out a series of arguments, I've given speeches, I've given more than I can count over the years. Sometimes just an audience of one, sometimes, in person, when everything was IRL. And I've given speeches where I lay out a slew of arguments, and the hearers will wait until they can find one that they can actually compute, and then they will disagree with the totality of your argument based on the single simplest argument that they can compute, and just ignore from that point forward everything else that was said. And I guess it's human nature. I mean, I guess we just have to accept this reality. But so I don't want to do that either. You know, it's just like it would be too long, and then I put too many arguments out there, and then what happens is we'll get a bunch of me-nots, will make videos and say they'll take one of the, you know, the simplest arguments, disagree with that, and then, you know, say I'm a Fed or whatever. So we would rather have clips from like All Voices Portal. That guy's rocking it. I came across some of his clips yesterday. So good on that guy, man. We share his work. I guess he's on BitChute and wherever else, but he's obviously on YouTube as far as I'm concerned. But if you can't find him there, then you have to look elsewhere. The ear is against the door. Pearl Lady says, this is a problem with conservatives and right-wingers. They never address anti-whiteism. They always talk about wokeism and leftism. It's irksome. I like that word, irksome. Nice selection. Nice choice there. It is irksome. That is a great word. You should use it at work, folks. First chance you get. If that's not in your regular speaking vocabulary, it's a very useful word. Thank you very much, Fernol, for the sound was fine. The feedback there. The mic is still good. Very good. All right. Hess says, probably neither, but he seems like a good guy. He was some confidant to JFK. There are a lot of people who live in Northern Virginia that are like movers and shakers. And I'm one of them. In fact, I'm the most. But yeah, there are quite a few. So great to see you all here. If you are new, welcome to you. And I know the way this normally works is that everybody comes in and they kind of throw their own ideas around and that sort of thing. And you're more than welcome to broach an argument with me. Just make it respectful. Tag me as No White Guilt, and the Troll Slayers will help you out if you keep getting it wrong, if they notice. But this is about learning a method that we call Go Free, that is scientifically proven over decades now and has had immense success. So let's go ahead and dig in some more, ask some sort of preliminary questions. I didn't see anybody tag me with any responses to those. Cool Papa says, hey, do you want me to be pointing people to your channel? I have a few times today, but I'm wondering if maybe you'd rather not have the anti-whites coming in to stir up. What do you think? People who are hardcore anti-white are not going to be, they're not going to come over to the Go Free method. They're not going to, so that those kind of folks, you can just go ahead and skip over them. But if you have folks who are MAGA, nationalists, patriots, First Amendment, Second Amendment, constitutionalists, libertarians, I mean, down the line, everybody who's close enough, who might be able to listen to reason, logic, and evidence. But an anti-white would show up here. Artificer is here, and we're going to be celebrating him on Sunday for something. We'll talk about it then. It's magnificent. Gata is here. Hello to you and welcome. Conservative May. Well, hello to you. How are you? So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and we're going to back it back up, this ad. And first thing I want to ask you, as you look at this wonderful non-white woman with her baby, it's a beautiful sight. Got the causeway. The causeway is sun-dappled and looks very safe. And she's just kind of seeing you see in the West, isn't it? And here she is. She's got her baby. She's obviously has a baby in there, and not like a dog or something, because she's got a bottle with her. I mean, the video makers were telegraphing this in a very big way. First thing I want to ask you, especially if you looked at this video and you saw the parts that I am not going to show. And you got to the end of this video and you said that this was awesome. This ad was amazing. I'm going to now ask you to consider this ad without the violent crimes. And did you not just discover yourself in the midst of a flagrant attack on white well-being to the point of biological white erasure? Let's have a look. Let's see if I can find. So you start off with this woman, this non-white woman, is perpetuating her people. Her baby is in the stroller. The white woman, however,
For nearly 30 years, crime was falling.
is carrying a dog, a fur baby, which I find an absolutely disgusting name. And I really don't tolerate it in my midst. Fur baby. We could say it's a meme pathogen created by white people who aren't anti-white. They just think it's funny to say that they have fur babies rather than actual children. So this is a despicable thing. So you start off with the non-white race is continuing, is growing, and the white race has come to the end of the line. There's no future for the white race with this very attractive white woman with her puppy. There are no kids in tow, and you can't see a wedding ring. You don't even know if she's married. So this is potentially a single white woman with a pet. And that's the image of the white race today. So these are supposed to be the creators of this ad. They're supposed to be creating something that hits back at society for what's happening. Presumably, it's a presumably right-wing Posobiec says this ad hits so hard or something like this, presumably punching back. But when you punch back inside of the anti-white narrative, you're always punching yourself in the face. If you're white and punching back within the anti-white narrative, you are always punching yourself in the face. So the creators of this ad, the people at Citizens for Sanity, they need not be like crypto anti-whites, for example. They could be, but they need not be. The odds are much more likely that they consider themselves MAGA or patriot or what have you. But they're in the anti-white narrative. So they're basing all of their decisions and strategy, what's going to be depicted, what's not, the music that's playing, etc., on an entire spectrum of fallacies about the real world. One of those fallacies that's unspoken right here is that the lives, future, and opinions of non-white people are preeminently valuable, and that the lives, the future, and opinions of white people are suspect and of less value. They don't need to be able to articulate that with their brainwashing, I guess, and again, we probably shouldn't call it washing, as First Last says, brain killing, spirit killing. With this programming, they come to these conclusions that are deleterious to themselves, deleterious to our people. All right. The black woman with the baby has the valuable questions about how is she going to have an environment to raise her children. The white woman just wants safety for her lonesome self and her pets. So why would they do that? A couple of reasons. One is what I just articulated. The opinions and the lives and the suffering, the joy, etc., of non-white people are important and valuable. That of the white race, not so much. That of the white individuals and therefore the white race, not so much. The other reason is that stemming from that erroneous conclusion that is born out of the anti-white narrative, the makers of the ad believe that they shield themselves from criticism if the true victims are non-white people. Surely the woman with a baby deserves more protection than the woman with pets, right? You want that baby to live his or her life. You should, far more so than the pets in someone's home. Even though we do love our pets, they become very real members of our family. This is how the psychological warfare works. The targets of the psychological warfare, anti-whiteism at this level, effectuate and actualize their own victimization. So then we go on and jump in. I think we'll probably be okay if it's just stills, right? Okay, here we go. The police are getting attacked. And here we go. So again, my question as we started to go through it the second time is, if you thought this ad was great and we take out the dark-skinned criminals segment of the ad, what do you think now? Non-white woman with a baby stroller, white woman with a puppy or dog. Then we have these referred to as woke within the anti-white narrative, which means the opposite of woke is what you are if you disagree with this. You can consciously mock the word woke, but subconsciously, and the brain does this, it dichotomizes everything, probably because of the split hemisphere. You hear woke, the adversary is woke, the subconscious mind automatically says the opposite is asleep. The opposite is unaware. All of these synonyms are supplied by your subconscious mind. You can't escape it. And there's just, we don't have the time to go over the endless proofs of how your lived experience interacts with words and phrases in your life, and how that ends up manipulating, by way of the subconscious mind, how you respond or don't respond. So then you have the woke prosecutors, and then we have something very interesting. Now these go by really quick, and you could say without question this guy's not white, but these go by very quickly, and he, along with the others, right, these appear to be actors, right? Are these real photos, or are these actors? Did they actually go through? It appears when it came to the acts of criminality, they just grabbed the videos off the internet that they could most easily find. But these appear to be but maybe they're not actors. Either way, if these folks making this ad went out of their way to find actors that all of whom, as they flashed by, would appear to be white, and at this point in the video, they're saying, by the way, that these woke prosecutors are letting these violent criminals back out onto the streets to continue to prey upon their victims. And in that quick snippet there, as they flash them on the screen, and of course it ends with a white male, as they flash them on the screen, you're left with the impression that, okay, the violent people that are out there on the street are these white people. Why would they do this? So if they didn't go hire actors for this, then they specifically went out, and instead of getting actual mugshots, they went and they found artificial mugshots. They didn't hire the actors themselves, but they went out and found these fabricated mugshots, and then showed these as your violent offenders. They're doing this because to depict non-white races and to say these are your violent offenders is to run afoul of the anti-white narrative and can incur victimization from them. Now, granted, they are doing this with the live footage that they're showing, or the recorded footage, but they actually think, and probably the reason why they don't have footage, they would probably love to have footage of white people doing all the same things that they could find easily, that's available on the internet, of non-white people behaving the way these people behaved in these crimes and these videos. If they could have found that many videos of white people, they probably would have, at minimum, made it like 50-50. Because you can clearly see by their choices here that they found themselves kind of in a spot. It was easy to find all these videos of violence to say the country has become, and really the video maker or makers, the point is the country has become wildly violent with crime because of wokes and wokeism, the woke people out there. That's why it's violent. And so you've got to go vote for, Republicans to put an end to it. You like, give me a break, right? So they then present these white people. They have to try to, in their minds, they're thinking, well, we can only get these videos. And so we can't get punished for these videos because these are real videos. You see, they're not going out of their way to artificially depict non-white people as the violent offenders. They appear to be going out of their way to depict white people as the violent offenders and just grabbing the easiest videos that they can find of non-white people committing crime. And so remember, if you take the actual violent clips out, what do you have now? And then I'm going to tell you at the end of the second time going through it, what this means about you. So you have the opening with the two women. Now you have the violent offenders, a bunch of white people, and it ends with a white guy. There he is. He even has blue eyes. It's a white guy with blue eyes. And there's something called the recency effect. And the recency effect is an aspect of the mind that the easiest thing for the brain to remember is the last thing in a series. So when they give people, like when they gave me the IQ test and I could do 15 items forward and backwards, that's not the norm. The norm is for people to remember the last thing or the first thing as well, but to a greater extent, the last thing in a series. That's the thing that they'll always get right. And so I'm not saying that they necessarily consciously did that, but it's the kind of thing that when you are in a soup, you arrive at outcomes that comport with that soup, that environment, that zeitgeist. So here you have the white guy. So the white people. And then we go back to more violent behavior. And then we get here to the end. And what do we have here? So once you take all of the actual video of violence out, now we get to the end and we have this lovely, I don't know if they're all actors or an actual black family, but this lovely little family, they're out in the park, or it looks like, and they're blowing the bubbles and it's fun. Everybody knows that's fun when you do that with children. And something else is interesting about this particular black family is that they definitely appear to have a good dose of white heritage, genetic heritage, almost as though white people are gone. And here are the good people that we're trying to protect. Here are the white people were those monsters that are getting let out of jail by these woke people in DA's office, prosecutors. And this is the family that's getting harmed. The future of America. No white people. It's black people who clearly have a good dose of white genetic heritage to them. So what do you think about this ad now? If you were one of those people, or if you were thinking to yourself, the argument could be made that the ad itself is a promotion, whether consciously or unconsciously, of biological white erasure. So if you looked at this ad, or you know somebody who could look at this ad and conclude that this ad was awesome, then you know that the totality of the ad that they thought was awesome, that overrode what they were seeing as the matrix in which those violent clips occurred. And that was anti-white from start to finish. White woman has a dog, non-white women have babies. White violent offenders are the ones that are getting let out on the streets to harm us. And then wonderful non-white family here with a lot of white genetic heritage in them, sort of like that's it for white people. That's what's left at the end. So you missed by a promotion, intentional or not, of biological white erasure. You missed it for the violence on the screen. That means you were infected with the meme pathogens without even realizing it. The meme pathogens that we're going over without even realizing it. Now, what really does it say about you? If now you suddenly think, wow, geez, if you take those clips out, this is really awful. Well, if you thought it was a good ad before you realize this, that means you're white negative. That means you're in an ugly place. You're inside of the anti-white narrative, and you need to come out if you're ever going to be redeemed. You need to come out if you're ever going to be a good person. You need to come out if we're ever going to succeed in recapturing our destiny. Because what you were doing there was you were celebrating the bad behavior, what is depicting here, bad behavior of non-white races. You were saying, look at these proofs of my focus on the negative behaviors that you believe and that you believe that are true and that are true, whatever those things are. Look at how this confirms how wretched I feel about these people, how wretched they are. That's a despicable place to be. Because you're obviously in that place not thinking of the victims, whether they're white or otherwise. But if you you claim to care about white people and claim to be a white positive or even just a white sympathetic, you supposed to be thinking about the white people who are victimized and victims in general. So I'm going to ask a few more things and then I'm going to get right into, I'll take a look at your comments, questions, and et cetera as well. And then I'll get into, I took a bunch of quick notes because this is, like I said, it's so full, so contradictory, so full of anti-whiteism. So it's like watching, it's like you'd have to imagine, if you wanted to make an analogy, you have to imagine people who or children reared in some science experiment, and they're out in the middle of the woods somewhere and they don't know anything else of the rest of the world. And they're told, what was that movie that Sham guy created where they're out in the woods? Shyamalan. And the children don't know what's going on in the woods, or beyond the woods rather, in the real world. And they think there's these monsters in the woods. And they want to keep them out of the woods because they want them to not find the fence. So if you were to ask them, okay, draw the world, what does the world depict? You would see like insane ideas. All those ideas would be based in the narrative of that town. You would know how crazy they looked. That's how crazy you look to people who are going free. That's how crazy these people look to people who are going free. So let me see. The Village, I think that's what it was called. Yeah. Rory says, to be honest, if the ad was about black people wanting to protect themselves from crimes in their own community, then I think it's okay. But trying to blame it on whites is out of order. Well, this isn't a group of black people, I don't think, who are saying, come to our community. And I mean, especially since they depict black people in these violent acts harming people who are not black, of various races. But yeah, I could see if a black group made, and it would make perfect sense then, if a black group was looked at, say, the inner cities and said, look at all the crime that we have, and here's a lot of footage of it happening where this black criminal is harming this good black person, we have to vote to put an end to the environment that coddles criminals or whatever it is. Then yeah, that would make sense. All right, let me roll to the top here. Also take a look at Cash App. So those people are always first. Oh, and back to what Based in Red Pill was asking. These are anti-whites. Vicious, very just nasty anti-whites who would celebrate the death of white people, any white people. She's just she's become, for them at that moment, she's the avatar of Western kind, the whole white race. They will give you any number of excuses, like they did there. Oh, it's for the colonization of the whatever. They would give, if you could take that excuse away, they would come up with another one. It's all about the victimization of Western kind, and they're using her for that moment as the avatar of all of Western kind, Western civilization. Was that God of the Great says hello, hello, a big hello, hello back to you. Knowles telling somebody, if you want to disagree with me, politely do so and tag me as No White Guilt. You know, if you come into the live chat and, you know, for your Friday evening, you think that you're going to have some fun because on your Friday, you're going to go into the live chat of white people who are trying to recapture the destiny and who have a method that works. And all you have to do on your Friday night is to pop into that live chat and then say just a bunch of ugly things that immediately get deleted. That's a pretty sad Friday night. So why don't you try to get some education? And if you have some legitimate questions or arguments, then just tag me and I'll speak to them. All right. We don't have anybody over there. Sigma's asking about an event. I don't know anything about it. Generally speaking, an event where you get a bunch of people together and they shout yes and heil this or that to pronouncements that take place within the anti-white narrative and are a perfect representation of the antagonist in the anti-white narrative. Generally, when those kind of meetings take place, not a lot of good is accomplished. But I don't know what was recently, what recently you're talking about. But I'll mention what I mentioned the other day, which is IRL activity is not better than, if you were to take just generally speaking, online activity versus IRL activity. IRL activity is not better than activity on the internet. It's just prima facie a fact, because we were all 100% IRL when we had much better conditions in our countries, and that failed, right? So but thank you for the question. Anyhow, let me check over here, and we'll keep rolling. Okay, we're good. Didn't miss anybody. All right, so just a couple things first. They're calling it wokeism. And what if it's not wokeism? What if it's not the woke prosecutors? Then you have the left, you have the communists, you have the liberalism, you have social justice, all of these sorts of things. None of that identifies the victim group, the genuine victim group. So I'm not going to spend long on that. If you use their ideology, you've used their terminology, you adopt their ideology, where you can't win. That's their story. So you can't call them by the names of their taking, and you never take the names of their giving, or you lose. It's particularly important with the white race, for reasons I'm going to get into in just a moment. All right. Just say a couple things about why I guess the ad is wrong right up front to me and to those who are white positive. There are more that I could say, but I'm going to truncate it for time. It is immoral to measure all the members of a race by the actions of individuals of a race. That's an immoral thing to do. It is hypocrisy to blame people for the way they were born. And it's hypocrisy because we don't want to be blamed for the way we were born. Hypocrisy, when a white person is not anti-white, is one of the ugliest things that a white person can encounter. You're never going to win our brothers and sisters over in their tens of millions by being a hypocrite. The big problem here, to get really started, is that the biggest problem is that this ad centers a non-white race of man. It doesn't center our people. It's not talking about our victimization. It's not following the victims of anti-whiteism and anti-whites through the hardships that follow that victimization. It's entirely focused on bad actors of another race or races. Now, here's the thing where, to really get into the meat of it, here's the thing where in the white sympathetic sphere, everyone gets it wrong when it's not going free. And they will, seemingly many of whom will always get it wrong. They will say that they are focusing on the problem. The problem. They'll do this primarily with the black race and with the Jewish race. They'll say they're focusing on the problem. As I said, I'll just repeat. There's a lot of big things wrong with that, but we're going to hit one of the biggest peaks. And I'm going to try to explain it in the simplest way why, aside from it being immoral and hypocritical, aside from those things and some other things we could go on about, it's never going to work. It's never going to be effective. It never has, and it never will be. The biggest problem here is that if you are making this argument that you are focusing on the problem, like that's one of the people wrote in the thread below this. I don't see what's wrong with it. It's focusing on the problem. If you're one of these people that think it's focusing on the problem, the real problem with that is that you are not speaking for a people for which your opinion can influence that collective's opinion. I'm going to say it again. You are not speaking for a people for which your opinion, your conclusion here, can influence the collectives, that people's opinion. And then briefly, I just tacked in a note here that when you do not have a people and you center another group of people, you become a satellite in their story. In this case, you become an insensitive, persecuting, stereotyping, white racist in their story, representative and proof of all the claims about white people in their anti-white narrative. A black person has a people. You don't have a people. When a black person gives an opinion, that opinion can influence their collective opinion. An identified problem for the black collective is met by black individuals with this question: is this truly a threat to our community, our people, our race? When whites give an opinion about a threat, when they're focusing on the problem, when white people give an opinion about a threat to the white race, they are such individuals that they almost never mention the victim people that they are presumably referencing. And they don't mention them because of that radical individualism. How many times have you heard people in the white sympathetic sphere talk endlessly about negative things about some non-white race and not mention once the victimization of white people? Or if they do, it's like an afterthought, something they're throwing in as an excuse to be able to focus on a non-white race, center them in the story, and then be able to say very negative things about them. And there's proof of this from many angles. What they end up doing is such individuals, they focus on the one group that they can identify. And in this case, it's the black race. And they talk about the threat to society. It's a threat to society. Often when whites center another race this way, they're not thinking about the white race at all. They are only thinking about the group they are centering. Evidence of this is that they make the same exact arguments, in this case about the black race, to other races, perfectly illustrating that the point of their argument is not the well-being of the white race, but the negative emotions they can stir toward another group. Again, in this case, it's the black race. Now, the fact of, if you're a big Jared Taylor fan and you want to say, but all of these crime statistics, what I'm saying here doesn't contradict any of the crime statistics. I'm concerned with preventing our white brothers and sisters from being victimized by anybody who's anti-white. That's what I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with creating a people out of our deracinated, individualistic race. Because we will never defend ourselves as a people, and therefore that redound to the health and welfare and benefit of us as individuals, until we see ourselves as a people. Until your first concern is, how are white people being harmed? Let's talk about that harm. Let's talk about how we put an end to the harm. So you've probably seen this too. You've probably seen people who are satellites in the Jewish people's story, and they want to go out to other races, non-white races out there, and they want to talk about all of the negative things that they feel about Jewish people. In this case, it's the same thing. You can very easily see, and you will have heard them talk about how, well, I went to this other non-white group and they're just as disgusted with the behavior of black people. That's what they would say. So what is this about? Is it about their hatred of the black race or Jewish race? It obviously is. It's not about the white race at all. You would not make these appeals to these other folks if it were not. Now, here's what happens when you give an opinion. When whites give an opinion about a threat to the white race, their audience, white people, do not ask themselves, is this truly a threat to our community, to our people, to our race? Because the white people don't have a people. They are all radical individualists, which is one of the many reasons why you have to focus on us and call our victimization anti-white and the victimizing ideology anti-whiteism. You do this to engender collective identity by way of shared persecution on the basis of a shared and inescapable characteristic, i.e., the biospirit of our race, the very essence of what we are. White people genetically are predisposed, it appears to be the case, to individualism. We lose everywhere, where as individualists we contend with groups of man who are apparently more collective in their thinking for their individual well-being. So you have to corner white people, essentially. You have to give them no option but to see the truth, that the victimization of them as an individual is a consequence of their membership in a collective that they're trying to deny, that they want to run away from, that they want to make deals with the other side for, that it's on that very basis that the collective is being victimized and therefore they are victimized. And it's inescapable. You can't undo what you are biospiritually, racially. How then do white people receive these opinions about other races? It staggers my mind that there's so many people who can still look at something like this and can still fist pump. Probably half the time they're hitting themselves in the head. And that's how they got this way. I don't know. The vast majority of white people see this, quote, focus on the ne'er-do-wells of a race as representative of every member of a race as immoral. White people, and I don't know if I put that in my notes here, but white people will very easily, the average white person, will hear somebody like people who endorsed this ad and will talk about hate on some other group of man. And they will think that you're immoral, at the same time making individualistic personal decisions to not live in areas that they have come to believe are going to be more likely to be criminal and violent. Does that make sense? White people are individualists. You cannot go to them and speak to them about a threat to the totality for which they don't believe they belong, for which they believe that they can escape, for which they believe that they can conspire with a victimizer, per se, at their benefit and your detriment. This is so fundamental to understanding why the white race continues to lose in the defense of ourselves against the victimization of anti-whites and anti-whiteism, that it's ineffable. It is ineffable that this goes without widespread knowledge. That I know I'm speaking it now, and I know that there are people saying bullshit. It is a fact. The evidence is all around you. We see it endlessly. White people, they don't want to be judged by the worst members of our race. the average white person, doesn't want to be judged by the worst members of our race. So they're disinclined to judge other races by the acts of their worst members. They also, as I said earlier, would not want to be judged on the basis of how they were born. So they're not going to judge others on the basis of how they were born. They know white people. They know law-abiding black people in this case. Many of them. You can very hardly find a place, certainly in America, where there are white people who don't know law-abiding, good black people. So it doesn't matter how many times you go to them and you show them a video of black criminals. That's never going to change. They're going to say, those are black criminals. Or they'll say, those are just criminals. They're not going to suddenly say, I have a people and that's a threat to my people. I mean, just imagine that for a minute. Imagine like the guy on the end of your street, and he is as lackluster and average and as a mediocre can be. He's living his life. Maybe he's climbing the ladder. He works hard. He pays his taxes. He doesn't break the law. He's got a couple speeding tickets. You know that it is unthinkable that if you went to him and said, I have some evidence of a threat to our race, that person would say, really? I need to know right now about the threat to our race. No one is going to say that. I mean, what ends up happening so often is in the white sympathetic sphere, you get talking in these echo chambers, and only with people who already care about and many of them who supposedly care about the white race, the degrees to which they do are very widely. As I say, in some cases, it's just an excuse to hate on another race. White people have been taught by the anti-white narrative that any such talk, as you see essentially without words depicted in this video, is representative of a whole range of beliefs and desires that you might not share, that you, the person saying, hey, you should watch this video, that you might not share in the slightest bit, such as wanting to murder all non-white children. They learned that in the anti-white narrative. If they learned in the anti-white narrative that holding up a checkered flag or holding up a pirate flag meant that the person holding up the flag wanted to murder and eat children, why would you go to them and hold up a pirate or checkered flag? The big trap here in this video is that, and this is a neoterized or coined word, if you will. I don't think it's out there. You all have heard of the word demonized. Well, it certainly could be argued that the black race is the most angelized race on planet Earth. Every white person learns over the course of their entire lives that black people are the most innocent, wrongly put upon, enslaved, pressed into service, and longest suffering people there are. That they are still suffering from all of this, and that they only lash out in desperate frustration. As a consequence, white people are endlessly, white people and others endlessly apologize for blacks with endless excuses, and they give them absolute freedom from responsibility. So the kind of conclusions they would make by watching this, most white people are going to think that these people are either just criminal individuals, because I know so many good black people that don't behave this way. These are just criminal individuals. And well, if you want to focus on the fact that they're black, well, they're frustrated at how they're treated, how they're persecuted, what's been done to their people. They're frustrated by their enslavement. They're still suffering outright persecution today by maniacal white people And that, in fact, your going to them with a video like this is evidence that the anti-white narrative has an accurate portrayal of people like you who supposedly care about the white race. That you are a monster, that you want to harm these people because you are overlooking everything here that I'm mentioning. You are overlooking the good black people, the black soldiers, the black police officers, the black judges. You're overlooking the black people who are their best friends across the street. You're overlooking the fact that they can't help the way they were born. You're overlooking the fact that it would be hypocritical if you don't want to be condemned on the basis of your immutable characteristics. So the ultimate trap in this video, when you support it, you like it, and you share it, which it appears that quite a few people have done, is that you turn off millions of our brothers and sisters. You empower the anti-white narrative in their minds. And they'll want nothing to do with you. And it makes it harder for people like me to reach them with love, hope, and redemption. So the bottom line is, and the thing that nobody seems to be able to grapple with, is that when you are white and you say, as so many do, and I get so sick and tired of seeing it and reading it, that what's wrong with identifying the problem as you focus on another race and make yourself a satellite in their story as some evil bastard. The problem there, among the other things that I stated earlier with being immoral and that sort of thing, being in their story, that as big as that of a problem as it is, we talk about that a lot. The huge problem that I'm talking about tonight, to recap, is that your opinion cannot influence the group's opinion because there is no white group. There is no white community. There are white individuals. It's akin to maybe you work at a firehouse and you know everybody at the firehouse is a fireman, and you get a call from your wife that the house is on fire. And so you sound the alarm. The house is on fire. And then instead of the firefighters acting in concert as they would if this were in reference to a non-white race, in my opinion at least, as the white race, the firefighters, some of them don't care. Some of them go to their houses as quickly as they can to make sure that their individual houses are okay. They're not on fire. That's what ends up happening. You don't have a people. You cannot identify a problem to the people. And again, to recap, the contrary for non-white races is if you are a member of a non-white race and you share an opinion and evidence of a threat to your people, the individuals of that race receive that opinion with the question, is this truly a threat to my race and therefore to me as an individual? In my opinion, all of them, that's what they do. Is the information that this person is providing accurate? Is it true? Because if it's true, then I'm going to join in the group opinion. And if you get enough people in the group, they're asking that question to start with, you get enough of them of that mindset, then you have a whole new stream or body of thought in that group. It cannot happen for the white race. And if you all remember, I was on JF years ago, and I was supposed to come on after David Duke. But as David Duke is wont to do, he was continuing to talk. JF brought me on because it was my time and he wasn't going to stay up all night. One second. And I and David Duke ended up in sort of an impromptu debate argument. And this is the case I was trying to make to him. And he absolutely could not see it. And then Richard Spencer called back in. Richard Spencer had been on the show earlier in the evening. And then it was Richard and David Duke against me. JF was laughing the whole time because he was seeing the point I was making. Neither of these guys could get it. Neither of them could understand that you can talk all day about problems for a group, but if the group doesn't know that it's a group or doesn't care, and in fact is composed of individuals, the consequence is some of them are going to run for the hills because they think that will save their individual ass. Some of them are going to take their resumes to the group that has the power enough to inflict injury on the white race, and they're going to want to join them. That's what we see. You can't argue with what is patently in front of you in every case and every time. So the biggest problem with pointing out the problem is that you don't have a people. And that is why anti-white, the concepts anti-white and anti-whiteism are the most important concepts for the white race, maybe ever, because we are heading rapidly toward dissolution. We've lost control of our countries, and they are headed in directions that are vehemently anti-white. And if you had talked to as many white people as I have, trying to bring them over to white well-being, trying to bring them over to caring about what happens to our race, you would know that you cannot give these individualists any room whatsoever. You cannot give them any leash, because if they can find a way out of it for themselves, they will. If you say this is a Marxist problem, a white person will say, well, can I villainy signal some Marxism? Or where do I got to move to get away from the Marxism? If you say this is a problem of the criminality of this group here, well, they'll say, well, I just won't live near that group. But I want my job and I want my promotions. And so I'm going to say the anti-white thing to stay at my place of employment, to continue paying for my children's dentist visits. They're going to say, maybe if I villainy signal some anti-whiteism, then I'll get more rewards in my life. Life will be easier, because you're not pinning on them the reality that, no, you are going to be victimized as an individual because of a collective to which you belong that is being victimized on the basis of a shared characteristic that is inescapable. This is 201 IQ level stuff. And so I'm guessing that, as is always the case, there are going to be a lot of people who simply are not going to get it. And they're just going to want to ignore it because it won't serve the agenda of doing the same thing that they've been doing all along, using the same vehicles and the same ideologies. But for those who have the ability to understand, then this is for you. And you can understand how this commercial, this ad, is actually poison for Western kind. It doesn't, I'll restate again, it's not a contradiction or an attempted contradiction, nor am I taking a position against any crime stats or against the names of people who run big business and banking and all that. I don't care. I don't care about their story. I'm not going to be in their story. I don't care about it. And then for those who maybe have missed the times that I have articulated why being in our own story is important rather than in theirs, one of the most important things is that, unlike what you do, so many of you out there over the years, where you go out and you LARP, you live action role play as this political party or that ideology or that economic belief system. When you LARP, you know that it's not real. You know that you're pretending. You know ultimately that it's not going to go anywhere. But when we create our own story, the difference there is that anti-whites have to manipulate us into lowering our guard. That means they have to speak in our language. Therefore, if we can give them a language to speak to us with that undermines the victimization that they would like to inflict on us, we have checkmate. I hope that resonates for some. Let me see what people are saying. We're going to go ahead and roll out. And shortly here, we have Jacqueline. Let's get out the raucous emojis over here on Cash App for our dear sister Jacqueline. She financially gifts $20. Raucous emojis, 07s, V's for victory. $20 US. And she says, I always enjoy your streams, Jason. Thanks. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you expressing your appreciation with those kind words and that $20 financial gift. And I will see what you all are saying. Make sure you tag me with any questions or comments. I would definitely like to speak to anybody who has a disagreement on what I have concluded and shared here today. But wow, let's get out some raucous emojis, some 07s over here on Entropy. 100 hopping dollars from Australia. Thank you so much. Tomb of Arminius just financially gifted 100 koala dollars from down under. God bless you, brother. And he says, for white well-being and your consistent and honorable stand for Western kind. Bless you, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. What a champ. There are a lot of heroes in Australia, aren't there? I don't know. Things might get turned around in Australia first. Who knows? The Go Free method take off in Australia. All right, let's see if we have anything over here on Odyssey. And maybe we do here. Somebody called Good Job said that the woman does not have a wedding ring on. Her hand was kind of curled under the dog, but because she would wear it on her left hand, right? The great Netty-rific is with us, folks, over there on Odyssey. Great to see you, brother. He says, I hate it when I see people acting like their pets are just as good or better than actual children. Drives me nuts. Me too, brother. I can't stand it. Yeah, mind manipulating rather than brainwashing. Fantastic. Exactly. That's what it is. All right, let me see if anybody's tagging me on D Live. Great to see you all there. RK62. Says you have a point, put it under umbrella. Is that what it says? Don't know what that means. But thanks for being here nonetheless. Thank you so much, Tomb of Arminius and Jacqueline, for your very kind financial gifts. I'm going to take a look here to see if there are any questions or comments on what I was saying. JK160 is here. Great to see you, good brother. White Wolf, hello to you and welcome. Franklin, hello, welcome. Phantasm, hello, welcome. Code Seeker. Jason, everything you teach about frame is excellent. However, doesn't painting us into a we are victims frame subconsciously make us identity, make us identify ourselves as losers. No. We're not creating a victim class. Victim classes are people who claim to be victimized without evidence. They know there's no evidence, so they fabricate it in the anti-white narrative. And they do so for the point of rewards, gains, something for nothing. That something for nothing is not necessarily something material, because it can be the satisfying of the revenge that anti-whites feel that they are owed because of our very presence in their lives. What we're doing is we are using what is a very real victimization of our people, and we know that we're victimized. I mean, the contrary there, it's a great question, thank you. The contrary there is to pretend that we're not being victimized. And to pretend that we're not being victimized, or like we were talking about with this Bubba Brown, whatever his name is, that we can't be victimized because we're so tough, gives us a false sense of security. And when you have a false sense of security, you do what? You do nothing. You can't be hurt. And if they try, you can stop them. No, it's also cowardly, because let's imagine there isn't one, but let's imagine there's a white guy out there that's just so powerful, so magnificent that he could never be victimized. It's Bravo Sierra. It's just a fiction. Guys who are saying that have micro things on their bodies. And so that's why they have to feign so much masculinity. But even if that were the case, it would be extraordinarily cowardly and a shirking of one's duty to one's people, because the rest of the white race is being victimized. What do you think of a white man who would say we can't be victimized while white children every day go to school being taught to hate themselves? That's a victimization. So the victimization of our people on the basis of an inescapable shared characteristic is one of the most powerful things that we need, a reality that we need to focus on, to weld our people and then galvanize them to a collective defense for individual well-being, and therefore collective well-being. So it's a great question, but we will never be seen as weak for putting an end to victimization. Again, there's a big difference between a victim class and people who are saying, we're going to put an end to our victimization. Taken to its logical conclusion, saying that, well, you're losers if you can be victimized, then you would be the last white man on planet Earth saying, oh, I can't be victimized. That would be the mindset all the way to the end. So thank you for that. I appreciate that question. Amma is here. Great to see you, sister. Rory says, who exactly are Citizens for Sanity? I don't know. But I pulled up their website. Where was it? And they had billboards that they had, digital billboards that they had purchased space on in, I think maybe California. And the verbiage there was textbook, trapped inside the anti-white narrative. I should pull it up. Where is it? It was really nuts, honestly. So maybe it's not, I'll just say it. My guess is that it's not crypto anti-whites. These are just white people trapped into, okay, so it says here in Corona, California. So this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money to buy a billboard. I bought one. And this is even a bigger billboard. And the one here says, too much freedom is a bad thing. Get your IRS audit today. How could someone, if not for being trapped in the anti-white narrative, think that that sort of snarky nonsense could accomplish anything. I mean, what could that possibly do for our people? Zero. No one is going to look at that and then have in them engendered the prerequisites to the kind of personality and character that then melds with the others of our race, of our people, in a common defense and put an end to our victimization. And please stop making excuses for folks doing this, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's okay to tell people that they're just wrong, especially when it comes to our well-being and what's happened to our countries. Don't say, well, they think it's good. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. It's just plain wrong. It's just plain totally ineffective. It's just plain a massive waste of their money. Then they got another one that says, if you don't like being audited, then you are the problem. So remember when we did the Hannity and Hawley review, and I kept pausing it where they were articulating the catechisms of anti-whiteism for their audience. It was insane, wasn't it? I mean, could you imagine the group that you're victimizing getting together and then saying to each other like robots the thoughts and ideas that they have to have in order to victimize them? That's what's happening here. You're the problem. Well, it's really edgy, it's really snarky, except the fact that you're staying in their narrative where they will continue victimizing you. I mean, what could this possibly get somebody driving down the road? They're going to be like, yeah, that's what they're going to get. That. I think we need a little bit more than that. I know we need more than that. So I don't know who exactly this group is, but all right, let's see. Great question, though. Well, that is very, very kind of you to say, Carlisle. Jason is such a brilliant and gifted writer and speaker. He should have thousands watching him every stream. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, just strolling through to see if there's anything left. And then I will... Yeah, I think that's it. Dustin is here. Great to see you. Just for Fun is here. Great to see you. All right. And looks like we're clear over here and over there. So I don't think there's anything left to say about that, except you can try when you come upon folks who want to say, what's wrong with focusing on the problem? You can go ahead and try to just share superficially that you don't have a people that are going to adopt your opinion as a collective opinion for that people. That's the problem. You have white individuals out there who will make various decisions for what they think is best for them as individuals. That is so many times I have had this argument with folks in the white sympathetic sphere, and it's like hitting somebody up against the side of their head with a 2x4 over and over and over, and they just don't get it. And maybe in some cases they'll say they get it, but then they don't have a refuting argument to continue in their error. So, and maybe it's just a matter of they just don't want to do something other than what they've invested themselves in. They just can't. It's a provincial mindset. It's just like, here's where I am, here's where I always will be, and in the West also, we really suffer from, on a more sort of basic level, we suffer from this idea that, and I think it's a consequence of having this idea of democracy hammered on us all the time, that everybody, when it comes to socio-political issues, everybody's opinion is valid. Everybody's opinion, suggestion is as good as anyone else's. And it's just a matter of who can get more asses in the seats. And that, of course, is something that is thought by most people. And they're trapped inside the anti-white narrative, so they can't come to anything effective at all. And when they hear something that contradicts that, they think, well, that's just some guy's opinion. I wish you all would do that with your neurosurgeons or your brains, or the guy who's going to be repairing your aneurysm. It's just his opinion. I could do it just as good. I'm a plumber by trade. That's a tube. I work on tubes by trade. Just give me the scalpel. I'm going to go in there. Let me work on my brother instead of that cardiologist. I'm going to work on him. I know tubes. I know plumbing. I'm going to get in there and fix that aneurysm, that aorta. We'll see how that works out. But they don't do that. When it comes to like immediate things, right? When it comes to something acute, like, is your brother going to die on the operating table? You're like, whoa, okay, let's let the professional do it. Let's let the tried and true methods, the scientifically proven methods, have their day. And so many folks, and I got to say it as well, there's so many people who are like, yeah, that makes sense, Jason. You're right about that. And yeah, you just articulated something that is, I can tell, is wildly complex. And you just kind of broke it down and shared it in a way that makes sense. And it makes sense. But I'm just going to hang out here. I'm just going to hang out around when I float over to another group in their live chat, I'll just say the shit that they're saying. I mean, what's going on in your head? I don't know. Cowardice, lethargy, somnolence. I mean, what's going on in your head? The folks that do that. If somebody makes, and this is as critical. In fact, it's much worse than your brother dying on the operating table, because it's going to be all our brothers dying on the operating table. It's going to be all our sisters. It's going to be all our children. It's going to be this great and grand, beautiful people that is smudged, besmirched, vitiated, and swallowed up, white erased. So that to me is far more significant. But yeah, in the socio-political matters, everybody has an opinion. But I'll debate anybody on these issues. Not many people want to debate. They don't want to actually debate. And they just want to slander. But yeah, I'll debate anybody on these issues because my objective for decades now has been to reclaim our destiny, to free the Western spirit in every single Westman across planet Earth, so that they will be empowered where they are with the positions they hold and the money they have and the creativity that they were born with, or the industry, or whatever it is. And we will be able then to truly beat back the scourge of anti-whiteism. That's it. So the things that work, I stick with. The things that don't work, I get rid of. And it's ridiculous that so many folks who claim to care about us don't do the same thing. They don't have the same opinion. They don't have the same guiding light or drive. But that's why it's so good to be surrounded by you all, the good, the noble, and the heroic, in service to white well-being, because there's so many out there that are just simply not. And this goes to, and I don't know, we had a great comment from Paulridge about DICE. I mean, if you think for a minute, however many people we have here tonight, if DICE were going to say anything about his usage of anti-white and anti-whiteism, and again, I'm not begrudging him protecting his livelihood, but if he were going to say anything, if he said, like, there's this lovely little community, and they happen to use the same word that popped into my head. If he were to say that, which I think now, since he said what he said, it's even less likely. But if he were to say that, 2 million subs, that would have meant that content creators starting, that would have meant that however many hundreds of thousands that saw that video would know who we were. And then content creators with 500,000, 250,000 or whatever, they would think, well, this little community is worth talking about, is worth mentioning here as well. Maybe even worth having that guy on, that No White Guilt on. Then how many people would we have that we would be able to glean from that number? Those who could understand stuff like this, those who have a pristine spirit for white well-being. And how much more effective would we be then? So, remaining in these I don't know what I'm going to say, like these kiddie pool or whatever, is not acceptable. It's not okay for folks to continue to ignore our contributions. And it doesn't have to deal with credit on being creative. It has to do with recapturing our destiny. And it's not going to be enough to get, 5, let's just say for argument's sake, big content creators like Dice to use each 2, 3, 4, 5 concepts, and that be enough. That's not going to be good enough. It's just simply not. We need to increase the reach of the source. And being throttled like we are, it is disconcerting and upsetting to have to face yet again another, not going to say anything about them. Because like Carlisle just said, I could be talking to 100 or 90, or I could be talking to 100,000. What would you like it to be? How many people would you like to hear this directly? So that's what it comes down to. All right. Looks like we have is it Bianca? Is that a wave? I guess is what that is. Hello to you. And one more time here. Art Acrobats is here. Says there are a lot of secret celebrity watchers of this show. You're right. There are. And unfortunately, they're not speaking out. They could even just say, that this is a very interesting group over here. And they're just say a couple things. You'd be on a big platform, say a couple of things like that. And depending upon the size of the platform, could be tens of thousands that decide to wonder, follow that question. What is it about that? What is it about that group? Rory's asking about my opinion of the new king, and it's pretty simple. If he goes out and says, we're going to put an end to the victimization of Western kind in the UK and everywhere we have influence, then I think he's the greatest guy, one of the greatest guys to ever live. If he doesn't say that, then he's a piece of shit. I mean, and I honestly, truly, deeply mean that. A white person today in a position of power who does not acknowledge what's happening to Western civilization is a piece of shit. I don't care how much lineage there is. I don't care how much. None of it. None of it. There is an evil in this age. And if white people don't stand up against the evil of this age, then they're garbage. And he knows very well what's going on. He's not, and no excuses for this guy. Please, nobody give me excuses. I'm done with these excuses for the politicians, excuses for royalties, excuses for, the royals. None. Don't want to hear it. Brandon says, what's your ideal government structure and size? I want a small government, but that only works with a strong moral community, so I'm not sure anymore. Well, Brandon, here's the great thing about what you're asking, is that you are going to be able to now put your mind at rest on that subject, and instead, all that great raw processing power that you had contemplating this and discussing it with others, now you can go out and share the key concepts in the Go Free method, create memes, talk to friends, increase your circles of influence on different platforms so that when you share vids and clips, maybe from No White Guilt Clips or Alt Voices Portal or whatever it is, you'll be changing the world. Because the size of the government is totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter. We are not going to get to decide how big or small the government is going to be. When we recapture our destiny, the white race will bring forward its most intelligent to solve the issues of governments going through like a cycle and collapsing. Economies, the same thing. We'll be able to bring them forth, and I'm sure it'll also be varied because there'll be experimentation. So people will be able to see from one place to the next what fails, what works, why it fails, why it works. In my opinion, whether big or small, government is going to be in the future, governance, economy is going to be cyclical because we're cyclical animals. So it will be organized to go through cycles so that we don't set something in stone, which is what we do. We set something in stone, and then immediately in the next generation, we've already cycled so many degrees away from what we set in stone. And then the next generation, so many more cycles. And it becomes this ball and chain that we have to kind of paint anew, but stays the same. And so therefore becomes a problem for us. But the bottom line is we don't have any influence. We're not going to be able to make that decision. It's a waste of your precious and powerful processing that you have, that processing engine between your ears. And generally speaking, the way it works when people contemplate this is that the less power a group or body of people or individual has, they want smaller government. And the more power, they want bigger government. It just makes sense that this is this selfish application or this transmuting maybe of human will from the mind to the world. It just works out this way. Crazy people who have no power might or they're just joking or something like that. They might argue for massive government, one group to control all of it, unless they're in lockstep with some of the biggest governments and enjoy the outcomes of those governments. But for example, the weaker parties in a country will always argue for, we need smaller government. We need smaller. And the reason why is they want to share power from those who have power. Great question. Thank you. Promethean Promulgation says, your statue will have an alkaline waterfall coming out of your mouth because you're so based. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And when people bathe in it, when they stand under the water, there'll be miracles. People will get taller. The bits on their bodies that they want bigger will get bigger. The bits they want smaller will get smaller. They'll grow young. They'll be juvenescent. They'll no longer be senescent. It'll be magnificent. But I think I will be back. Well, I know I'll be back. Not tomorrow. We try to get back to working on the book again, the audio book. But definitely back on Sunday. for Going Free, where it's going to be magnificent as always, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can bring a bunch of people in, even without these people who should be mentioning us. They're going to say anything at all. Okay. I don't see anything more. So it was marvelous as always to be with you. What shall we end on, folks? What shall we end on? I think we should probably end on one of Fernald's kick-ass songs, the one I played the other day, Fill the Void, because that's what we're going to do. We are going to fill the void that's out there, the void of nobody standing up against our victimization with any efficacy whatsoever. And the other thing, I'll talk about it on Sunday, but we had a guy that wrote in one of the threads, and it's a good guy, wrote in one of the threads that he could see how Mark Dice came up with anti-whiteism on his own, how it just popped into his head on his own, because it's just so obvious. It's always obvious when you look backwards. But until Sunday, folks, we're going to be the ones to fill the void. Roll out.